Okay, so welcome everybody to this online meeting, where we are going to introduce the Iliad competition, actually a couple of competitions. So I'm Bente Liljaby. I come from Norway and I'm a partner of Iliad, which you will learn more about shortly. And I'm also the innovation manager of this project. Today we will onboard you, so thank you so much for accepting this challenge. We are super excited to have you here. And I will start right away because we have quite a busy schedule. We are planning to stay on for about 1 hour. We are recording this, so if you don't get everything, don't worry. It will be a recording that we will share with you. But I will start to show you the program. And for today, and I believe you see it now. So first we will introduce, not everybody of you know what the Iliad project is, Iliad Digital Twins of the Ocean. And maybe you haven't really heard about digital twins either, so I will give you a very quick introduction to that. Then Sophia here will give you also a quick overview of the competition before we go into a little bit more detail of the two tracks. We have a policy innovation lab track with Garabet and also Valentine. Valentine is here. Garabet will join us shortly. And then we have a second track from data to market. And we have a couple of challenges that we will show to you in a little bit more detail, but there are also additional challenges. Finally, some practical information and the next steps that you need to do. So this is the program for the next hour. And here we go let me see if I can move. Yes. So what is a twin? These are identical twins. One of them is my father, actually. The difference between a digital twin and identical twins, like you see here, is that identical twins, although they can be very hard, if impossible, actually, to make differences, to look at the difference between them when they are small, they grow and become more different. So you can start to distinguish who is who. But the digital twin, it's the opposite. The longer the time you are developing your digital twin, the more alike the digital version of the Earth or the subject of interest will be the actual physical one. So they go in both directions. So a digital twin, very simply said, is a digital replica of the real world. But we have a very clear definition after some deliberations globally. Here you see the International Standardization Organization. They have landed on this definition of what a twin is. It's a digital representation of a target entity with data connections that enable convergence between the physical and the digital state at an appropriate rate of synchronization. That means that you can have historical data, now-time data, and also real-time data, and you can run this in a loop. And you might, if you have worked with the data before, you might recognize these 4 stages of acquiring data, collecting the data, and then store it and prepare it so that you can run some models and analytics on it, like machine learning or artificial intelligence. And finally, you have the output that will be delivered in one way or another, depending on who your end users are. The twin aspect here is that you actually go in a loop. So you will continue more or less continuously improve this or do this circle several times. Oops. So in Iliad, we are developing thematic and local twins of the ocean. And you see here that we have defined 12 different thematic areas. And the twins that we have developed in Iliad is answering concrete problems and challenges related to these topics. So oil spill or marine and maritime insurance, fisheries. We will learn more about fisheries today, ballast water monitoring, etc. I don't want to go into detail. You will get this. The concept here is that we have thematic areas. This is an innovation action of the Horizon 2020 project program, funding program of the European Union. Now, this is a rather big one. It's nearly 20 million euros, and we are 54 partners distributed over 19 countries, representing not only Europe, but also Africa and the Middle East. So that's very short, Iliad, who is organizing this competition, and what a digital twin is, and the phases of digital twins, very briefly. And now we are coming to the competition, and I will give the floor to Sofia Parsadanian from the American University of Armenia. So Sofia, the floor is yours. I will turn the slides. Yes.
Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you here as a part of Iliad competition. Actually, this is a unique initiative, an opportunity and an invitation actually to brainstorm, to collaborate, and to reflect on this new phenomena we have now: digital twins, open source, ocean solutions, and data, and what type of impact it has on policies. And what type of impact it might have in economy. So how to turn these digital twins into scalable startups and businesses, and how to measure the policy impact of ocean data tools. This is a kind of high-level objectives we are reflecting on. And we expect that results of these competitions will be around these two objectives. But the goal of today's meeting is actually to give you a brief overview to introduce you the challenges, the tasks, and to give you practical information like timeline, awards, and how we will work during upcoming week. Thank you very much. I tried to be as brief as possible. I guess I succeeded. And then giving back the floor to the next speakers.
Thank you so much, Sophia. So now we are I will stop sharing. And now we will introduce the different tracks. I don't know if I see Garabet here. Do you see Garabet? Yes. So, yes. So I give the floor to you to introduce the first track, which is on the policy. Are you ready to share? There you are.
I can give a bit of an overview of why we're doing this, and then we can maybe the tracks. So, hi everyone. I'm Garabet Kazanjan, and I'm an assistant professor also at the American University of Armenia. Been coordinating the policy impact of the Iliad project that was presented by Bente. And before we jump into the whole competition elements, I want you to maybe imagine yourself in a big conference, in a big hall, where you have a lot of very different stakeholders, a lot of different types of people with different expertise. So think of having researchers and policymakers, politicians, think of having lawyers, think of having IT people, whatever expertise you can think of. I want you to put yourself in that setting and try to imagine what would you see? What would be the normal behavior in such a room? Imagine there are no chairs and everybody's standing up. How would the room look like? Just feel free to unmute and talk.
Everybody's shy.
Chaotic and confused.
Chaotic and confused. What else? I'm sure you've been to conferences before, at least some of you. What would be how does the crowd usually interact? you always have these clusters, right? You go approach the people you know. Usually these are people from your same domain, from the same background, same expertise. And usually, if you have people from very different backgrounds, like the one I described, you have policymakers, lawyers, researchers, IT individuals. They usually don't mingle, they don't interact because oftentimes they kind of talk different languages, not in the natural language, but say domain language. And this is kind of what we've developed here is more or less the same. And working in Iliad for now more than 3 years, I would say it was one of the most challenging but also rewarding elements for us, specifically because Iliad as a project has more than 50 partners, and we all come from very different domains and backgrounds. And in the beginning, when we came together with this massive challenge of creating digital twins, it was very difficult to understand each other. Now, why am I saying this? It's relevant, so bear with me for a moment, because when we're trying to tackle very big contemporary environmental challenges, and we need these innovative solutions like digital twins of the ocean to achieve sustainable ocean governance, which is data-based, science-based, and so on, with regards to decision making, any one of these groups alone cannot make this happen. So on one hand, you need the researcher with the expertise, with the scientific understanding of how the ecosystem functions. You need the IT folks to figure out how to produce applications and the devices to monitor all of the environmental variables. On the other hand, if you want all of this data to actually go into decision making and make an actual difference, you need the policymakers. And amongst all of these, you also need the business-oriented individuals to make all of this financially possible. So if you represent one of these domains, if you're a researcher or if you're a IT specialist or a data analyst or come from a economic background, you know that you need all the other components of the puzzle to make this work. However, like I said, this is something which is not very natural. This is something which is where we kind of go against naturally, because when we're put in a room with all other people coming from different backgrounds, we usually tend not to interact because it's very difficult, because we talk very differently. But this is exactly what we want to do. So we're pushing you in this competition to make that happen. So what we've done now is we have created a number of digital twins, which the competition entails. And what you will be doing, and now I'm going to one of the tracks, which is the policy track. What you will be doing is you take this 1 out of 5 digital twins, which will be given to you, and you will develop some sort of a portfolio. You will do some impact analysis. You will do some policy analysis as to what these digital tools could do for reaching different policy objectives. And here you have different European policy objectives. You have global policy objectives. You have the UN Decade of the Ocean challenges that society wants to meet. And we want to see how these tools could help us as a society reach some of these policy objectives. And what your task will be for the final presentation is to come up with a pitch similar to an elevator pitch, but slightly longer, where you will try to convince, say, your national authorities or maybe broader European policymakers of why these tools are helpful to be used, in the sense that they do help us despite some of the maybe capacity development needs and challenges and associated costs. These tools will help these policy makers that you're talking to or you're pitching to, will help them achieve some of the policy objectives which they have set for 2030, 2050, and so on and so forth. Are there any questions so far?
Was a
I'm
lot of
hoping
information at once. I'm still processing it.
Okay. We'll elaborate. So what we will do, maybe we have time. So what we will do is we've also developed a tool which will help you map the digital twins that we're talking about with policy documents. And internally within our team, we've created a tool which using text mining and semantic similarities has looked into the functionalities of these digital twins within more than 50 European and global policy documents, and we saw where the text overlaps. So this is what each of the digital twin or digital services in Iliad does and aims to achieve. And these are the policy documents where um, the targets say by 2030, for instance, for Mission Ocean, restore our ocean and waters, is trying to achieve, or the European Green Deal is trying to achieve. This tool will help you map in a very global sense where these services, Iliad digital services sit within the very global and international policy frameworks. But then you will need to do some additional research to figure out which of the linkages are more meaningful than others and create this pitch that I told you about, focusing on the most important things, trying to convince a fictional persona which you can create. Could be like I said, a national policymaker or a regional one or an international one, why they should be investing in using these digital twins. So maybe to put things in perspective, so things are not so abstract, I'll give the floor to Valentine, who will demo the tool that I mentioned, and you can see how it works, and then we can discuss how you could use this tool for creating the pitch that we're asking you to.
All right, thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. Welcome, everyone. My name is Valentine. I'm part of the Iliad consortium. I'm just trying to find out if I think I have the permissions to share my screen. Share sound, why not? And then share. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So following up on the introduction. So I think, Garibet, you highlighted the examples of the twins, and that you, in addition to the task of participants exploring the commercialization options of these solutions, potentially in their own countries or geographic areas, you also would love to them to look at the policy impact of each of these twins, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. All right, so let's have a look how you could go about doing that. So the first one up is identifying invasive species threatening aquaculture, one of the pilots in the Iliad project. So if you can click on this link, you'll be taken to a separate web page. I'm assuming you've all have access to this particular page already for simplicity's sakes. And so when you click on that first link, a new tab is opened, and there's this this introduction of the digital twin with more information about the twin linked, hopefully in the text, as you see here, with some URLs. And so go ahead and explore this. But as Garibet was already explaining, we are offering you a tool called SimFlow that allows you to actually gauge, using natural language processing techniques, what kind of policy impact is already addressed implicitly or explicitly in this particular twin. So now I'm going to this SimFlow tool on the market of the Iliad itself. So there's SimFlow. If you click on that, you'll see a new description appearing. with again some more information about the tool itself. And that tool is actually opened here right in my browser. So if you can all sign up once, then I will, once we have teams biting their teeth in one of these particular twins, I'll be able to grant you access. So let's go back to the invasive species for aqua farming. Here you see a list of descriptions. So there are 78 documents as part of this twin uploaded. There are several concepts available. Now let's have a look at this particular trove of information, which we refer to as learning materials, these 78 documents in total. So this is basically your corpus. We have the computational workflow, common workflow language that describes how data is combined. We've got some PDF documents straight in the root. And in this document, we also have a list of all the related projects within Iliad. Now, with this information, this learning information, as well as the policies that Garibet referred to earlier. So here's a list of all the major policies that might be targeted through these twins, like food security or renewable energy or whatnot, or creating employment under youth might be a goal in itself. Then finally, all this information is then parsed, and here we see a concept map, just an extraction of one of these PDFs that we included earlier on. And you see here that from this PDF document, in this case, biological marine species is identified. We have some non-native and we have native species. We have the different ocean regions that are being included or discussed in this particular document. And now the next step would be for you to actually link this to these policy documents. And for that, we'll have a separate tutorial session once everybody is onboarded. But basically, we can then align it to the policy documents that we talked about earlier. Now, once you've done this, what is the final end game? What's the final outcome of your challenge? Is that anyone interested in understanding how all those twins that we saw being shortlisted earlier, or any out of this list of 5, which SDGs or blue economy policy targets they actually hit, is obviously of great interest to those who have interest in the results of this project or any policymaker, is that we are able to then render the policy documents from the Iliad webpage, for example, or for that matter, any webpage. So in this case, you see the Iliad project's policy toolkit that Garibet and his team worked on so diligently. So here, for example, you see the fisheries. And now the alignment and the semantic uplift that we have facilitated through SimFlow can now be consumed by any curious observer or policymaker by clicking on this extension called SimLink. And it basically takes this document and parses the same concepts into a knowledge diagram or a knowledge graph that allows us to see how different policy impacts are being addressed, and say in what way we are conserving biodiversity, whilst at the same time we are trying to solve the issue of food security or youth employment. For example, there's also this example of shell fisheries that are now being promoted to be actually offering work placement opportunities and internship opportunities for ex-convicts who are already in prison, trained how to do shell fisheries. So you can see it's not just imaginary. These are real opportunities for many vulnerable groups in our society. And so your task is to then find out how do you link these concepts and then link them back to the definitions from the SDGs or from the Blue Ocean Marine Directive, and then find ways of being able to explain this document to someone potentially not as well versed in this domain as we are, who would love to better understand these digital twins. So it's really a communication tool that hopefully brings this perspective of very complicated documents, sometimes very technical documents, in a vocabulary that the layman person also is able to follow and learn from. So much for the tools that we have on offer within the different challenges. Feel free to use your own toolings and tool sets as well. You might find other methods or other machine-generated content or natural language processing tools more useful than this one. So feel free to choose your own flavor. Yeah. Thank you, Garibet.
Thank you, Valentine. I would open the floor now before we continue to the participants to get their thoughts on uh, if this was clear or not. If they have questions, then we can elaborate before moving forward. If it was clear, give a thumbs up. If it was not clear, feel free to ask a question. Okay.
Okay, we get a thumbs up. Thank you, Braulio. And if it's too much to consume in once, like we said, it's recorded, so you will be able to see it again. And I'm sure, Garabet and Valentine, that you will answer questions if they send you an email
Of
and
course.
wants clarification. So part of this competition is also that you will get access to mentors, to experts in the field, to be able to discuss and extract information from us.
Exactly, yeah. I was just about to show that there's a help desk where people can post their questions. So there are these tutorials step by step guided into the process. But also feel free to raise any support help desk tickets. By the way, we have this track changes or author, reviewer, publisher workflow. So any contributions from your teams are tracked using a Git changes logic. So here you see in green annotated new concepts as you align some of the vocabulary from these pilots to say these policy impact documents. Then we can actually see who deleted something in red, who added something in green, and who asked for a modification in orange. So your work is being acknowledged and your work is being tracked to that fine-grained detail. And just looking at the help here. Oh yeah, this is the help desk. So you can also schedule a demo. There's a schedule demo button in the right top part of your screen. And yeah, just do engage us as we go forward.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can move on. We can come back to answer questions if it comes to you later.
I think maybe before moving on, just 1 minute, I would like to clarify something in that you have a lot of flexibility here, and it's completely up to you as to what you choose to focus on. You have the 5 digital twins, as Valentine showed you, with different topics. So this is completely up to you to focus on one of these, depending on your preference. And then these digital twins will link to a lot of different policy elements. And here is where I think this is kind of the most important element as to identifying which are the more important links, which are the more important impacts, and making a package, a communication strategy as to when you're doing a pitch. Obviously, you don't have 3 hours to convince a person. You need to focus on the things which you think will bring in the biggest impact and try to convince the other person. So in preparing this package, this portfolio of the policy impacts of the specific digital twin that you choose, again, you can have very different approaches to how you prepare this, but the idea is to convince. You need to prepare a very solid, backed up case as to these are the functionalities, and here we see all the connections to different European or international policy objectives. And if you use this tool, you'll be able to do this, achieve this, etc., etc., etc. So in a very clear format, but in a very convincing format. How you do that is completely up to you. We've given you the full freedom, but we will evaluate your work based on how accurate your assessments are and how convincing it is and the approach you came to identify. Is it replicable if I choose any other one of the digital twins, or you came randomly to these? So you need to also document your steps, how you came to that point.
Yes. So, and I guess, Garabet, that you will see later that we have sort of a structure for the data to market section of it. And I think you will be able to make a similar, very simple template that summarizes what you just said, so that you get that material. And we come back to the more practicalities at the end of this onboarding. But now, so I will move on, and what you just heard from Garabet was that, you know, he was panning all of these policies. One of the important policy areas is open data and open knowledge, including open software, open hardware. You know, openness as a policy is not only in Europe, it's a global trend, if you like. And we wanted to look at how these openness policies can actually be transferred into innovation and viable solutions in terms of sustainability, also as business cases. So it's more about how do you implement these different the fact that we have open data and open knowledge, open source. How can we actually make business? How can we develop our business based on this openness? And we are going to offer then some of the pilots here or the twins that we have developed, that you can study and see if you can come up with some business development ideas to help us in this transition. This will be not only important for the Iliad digital twins, it will be very interesting and valuable across the board. So with that, I think I will give the floor to Clyde, who will introduce the first case and in a little bit more, the first track in a more detail. Hi, Clyde.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just share my screen. Is it sharing now? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Clyde Blanco, and I'm a researcher at ILVA, which is an institute for agriculture, fisheries, and food here in Belgium. And I'm here to give you a short overview of our digital twin for fisheries of the Belgian fleet we call VisTools. And so what was the reason why this system was built? It's because the Belgian fleet has been facing sorts of challenges, such as offshore wind farms. More and more wind farms are being created every year. And of course, more no-take zones such as MPAs. Recently, the Brexit, where has been negotiation on whether you can fish in British waters. Also, in terms of climate change, influencing the distribution of their target species. And lastly, the increase in fuel prices. And so the vessels we have different sensors deployed on the vessels, and that includes a sensor that tracks the location of the vessel. At the same time, sensors on the engine that tracks the consumption of fuel, as well as sensor that is attached to the net and it tracks the towing force. And we use that to detect the activity of the vessel, whether it's steaming or fishing. And then the other one is the weighing scale. And all of these don't really have value-added information unless you kind of sort of couple the data coming from different sensors. And with the introduction of the concentrator, it basically concentrates the data, creating a unified timestamps for the received observations on board. So say, for example, what was the location when a certain fishing was done and what kind of species was caught, and on that certain fishing activity, how much fuel was consumed. So with this concentrator, which is a mini computer, it aggregates all the data on board. And then from there, the skipper can see the current activity, such as species composition that they have caught, and they have a real-time onboard information of what is happening on the vessel. And since with this system, it gave us the opportunity to install some of the sensors we call hitchhiking sensors, because these sensors are not relevant for vessel owners or skippers, but for science. And so we've attached some environmental data sensors that constantly, during fishing, collects data on temperature, salinity, and turbidity. At the same time, some meteorological information. And so from there, the concentrator can push the data into the cloud, where it will push the information on towards the vessel owners on land. So from here, the vessel owners, which usually don't go during fishing, they can see the near real-time activity and the catches that they have, how much fuel they have consumed, and so they can kind of foresee how much profit they can get from the fishing trip that they are doing. And so we've started with 5 vessels in 2021, and now there has been 37 vessels in 2024, and of course 2025, which is more than half of the vessels in the Belgian fleet. And so here, the vessel owners on land can see the current. Yes. So this is an example of a Power BI dashboard that the vessel owners can see on the lucrative areas where they have done fishing. So you can do some sort of filtering through dates. And you can see here that this is in terms of euros. So for example, the green is the profits, and you have the dark green, which is the fuel consumption in euros during fishing, and then you have the red, which is the fuel consumption used during steaming. And so this is an interactive dashboard where they can see in near real time the activities in terms of fishing and fuel consumption. And so there's also another dashboard where they can see what are in terms of species composition, which species is the highest in terms of catch rates, and they could see in certain areas that they have got this, for example, is common sole tong, and it would help them as well to plan in the future and during some specific time that they've got this species. Also, not moving. Wait. Also, we have a dashboard where the information from the fish auction is also coupled, and they can see the evolution of prices of the species. And so not only they can see the catches and weight that take of the vessels while still at sea, but also how much that they will be able to sell. And so from there, since with this high resolution catch data that our vessels in the fleet are getting, it gives us an opportunity to create predictive models. And one of that is we call VISI, which is a Fishing Opportunity Explorer, which gives daily forecasts for suitable areas to fish common sole and European place. So these are the two important target species of our fleets. And so we use catch data from Vistos, which is from the sensors. At the same time, we have at ILVO an ongoing fisheries dependent surveys. So we also use that to train our model, and we couple that with environmental data coming from Copernicus Marine Service and EMODNet. And so for this is our new version of the dashboard that we have. So once the model is trained, we deploy it in Docker containers, and every day it is triggered to give predictions. And here you can see the predictions for common sole, and the number of prediction days depend on the number of CMEMS forecast available. So usually it's like 10 days, I think, but it really depends on the products, since the model is trained on, I think, more than 8 environmental variables. And then from here, in our dashboard, it is also linked to the pilot documentation that we have. So here we explained how we built the system that we have now. And so it gives inspiration for other people to actually replicate the digital twin for the Belgian fleet. And another use case that we have for this is that since the vessels are equipped with sensors that measure the fuel consumption, this can be used to calibrate and improve ship routing models. At the same time, we have been in contact with universities and other parties interested in actually optimizing engines or optimizing the shape of the hull for an efficient use of fuel. So that's all for the Vistals, which is the digital twin of the Belgian fleet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clyde. I want to, before we go on, I will make a comment that you mentioned CMEMS, which is Copernicus marine data, and those data are free and open. But you are combining this free and open data with restricted data, right? Yeah. So in the terms of finding and developing business models or developing the business around this, it's a case where you have free and open data, and I believe there's free source here as well. One of the last slides you showed, it was open to be reused, right? The source code you have.
Yes. So everything is in there. Everyone can, yeah. So the data from our side is not available because we are not the data owner. It's the vessel owners who owns the data. So if they would say, yeah, you can share the data, then it's fine. But we always have to consult them in terms of like fuel data, catch data, and all of those things.
Yeah. So for business development, these components are actually important to take into account. And I would say it's probably a very typical situation. So being innovative and having ideas around this would be highly appreciated by the global community, actually, no, nothing less. So thank you so much, Clyde. And next up is another case, again by Valentine. And in interest of time, can you, I'm looking at the watch, so if you can stay within 5 minutes, that would be great, Valentine. Are you there?
Yeah, sure, that's no problem. Otherwise, you just cut me short. But yeah. All right, this is something we did together as a team, together with Daniel here and Firman, and others from the Iliad consortium. So when we go to the list of pilots available for the competition event, here is the first. And then there is a link to a presentation. All right, so we've developed what is called Lemon, squeezed between ship and shore. It's trying to help shelf fishermen already faced with difficult challenges in seeing heat waves in summer kill off large portion of their stock. We saw that happening both in the Adriatic Sea close to Cattolica, where some of you were with me visiting the mussel farmers, which is, by the way, also one of the Iliad pilots with the organization AMA. But also here in the Netherlands, where we see oyster farmers faced with increasing stressors and increasing costs. That was also echoed in the pilot that Clyde showed us. So some of them are lucky, find pearls along the catch of their oysters, and some are very unfortunate, like these two, having to switch from bottom culture to table cultivation of oysters just because an invasive species called the oyster driller is not able to climb up the leg of a table. And therefore, with a raised bed, they are able to protect them from being drilled by this little animal, um, sucking a salty milkshake of oysters out of the shell once they have been successfully able to drill the shell. And then the farmer harvests just empty shells. So there's a list of factors playing a role. So we welcome your contributions here as well. We haven't focused a lot on many of these aspects in the app that we developed so far, but the app has the ability to be extended with additional data. The invasive species is what we focused on mostly, and also a bit on the water temperature from climate change for now. There's interviews from South African farmers and Dutch farmers already included here. So go ahead and play that in your own time if you want to know more about the problem owner and their struggles to make, instead of a loss, a profit at the end of the season. So here you see the examples of the Dutch estuaria. Here you see the northern part of the estuary, where basically all the rivers from Europe, Rhine, Maas, and others are flowing into the ocean. And unfortunately, there's very little data collected except in one bay north, where there's a transect with one vessel going through it every couple of weeks. But in the very bay where the oyster farmers and mussel farmers are active, there's not a single measurement being made at the moment in terms of temperature or oxygen. So everything that you see here is assumed to be similar for the very bay where no measurements are made, which is obviously an assumption that doesn't hold. As you see here, Europe's temperature stressors being displayed. So the app has the capability to do a transect or to do a point profile or to do a map view, as you see here on the right side. But at the moment, we've not implemented many of those features, but feel free to take on those as you see need in your particular region. So now the framework for the risk assessment itself is summarized here, which we have also applied to coral reef, marine protected area site selection. And so there's quite a bit of body of knowledge around how do we interpret risks and how do we quantify them. So feel free to dig into those aspects as well. And then other than that, there's often very little marine species knowledge on what kind of environmental ocean conditions are actually positive or when they become negative. So here you see just a discussion about the role of chlorophyll A. So also there you are welcomed to think through and mine literature more efficiently in building these species by environment interaction models. Here's the MVP design of what we wanted to include, and the final app obviously can be downloaded from the Google Play Store. So you will see some differences between the design of the MVP and what we in the end implemented. So this was just a mock-up to talk to the problem owners and say, hey, is this something that really helps you? And then the invasive species is what really triggered them, because oftentimes they just have something new in their hands whilst doing a partial harvest or doing some operation. Farm operations are, for example, that they harvest all the shells once every couple of weeks, and then they throw back what they don't understand. And actually, it could be a threat. So, as with the case of the oyster driller, they just weren't able to recognize the threat, and therefore they actually amplified the threat by throwing back the species back to the reef. Now, with the app, we've got a lot of knowledge and citizen science engagement to help find out these threats earlier on, as well as temperature from satellite data to understand when these species end up dying or should be left alone, bare minimum, not to stress them even more, and potentially temporarily halt any partial harvests, not stressing them more. We've got an online workflow or algorithm data processing pipeline doing much of this work, as well as here illustrated. Then on the species recognition and the species distribution modeling, here you see a list of techniques we've used. And here the ones that Daniel helped implement together with the rest of the team to understand the threat of new invasive species being able to settle in your destination area, which all depends on oceanographic similarities, et cetera, and all the input data and how we modeled the uncertainties in the input data in the final outcomes of our models. Using a data uncertainties ontology, we now are able to visualize. Here on the right side panel, you see the original map. And on the left side panel, you see the darker areas where we have a lot of uncertainty in the input data and therefore potentially can't conclude firm conclusions based on our model results from the twin neither. So yeah, summarizing this, the main feature of the app now focuses on helping citizen science activities by these small, medium enterprises active in the shell fisheries industry to detect these invasive species risks early on. And we also are very transparent about our own inabilities to recognize these invasive species based on camera photos from the shells themselves, with green being very certain about the classification and teal and orange and red being very uncertain about whether or not we are able to recognize and label these species correctly. Another aspect is the operational management and making logbooks by the farmers of what they actually do, so that they have a time machine together with the satellite to play back historical traumatic events like last year in Católica when the ocean temperatures reached 31 degrees. Was it the farmer who was to blame because of bad management, or was it climate change? So until now, I've very much exceeded my 5 minutes. Sorry for that, Bente, but that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Valentine. Yeah, in the interest of time, and knowing that we will be able to come back to this in more detail next week, I think I will just rush on so that you get the more practical informations as well. So I will share my screen again. Let me see, how do I do that now? Like this. And I think I must I'll just open this. Yes, so let me see. too many windows, folders up. So I will do this. See my screen. I will share. Yes. So we have arrived. You have seen now two concrete twins that we want you to dive into if you feel inspired. But we also have, so the first one was a twin that improves fleet management and presented the WIS tool, and you have more material to be studied there if you like. Again, the slides will also be made available for you. The second one is the twin that helps identify invasive species for aquaculture risk assessment. And then we have a third one that is that we haven't time to present now, but it's a twin that reduces offshore wind fan maintenance cost, and there's a twin presenting that. And finally, you can also propose your own challenge if you're working with digital twins or any other software or solution that is using open data. Remember, the challenge here is to make a business development that includes the open data and open source and open knowledge. So very quickly, the evaluation criteria, Garabet mentioned briefly also when he presented, but for this from data to market, we will look at the completeness of information and how realistic the proposed business development plan is, and of course, the quality of your presentation, how clear it is. Now again, Sophia, I give the floor to you to present the more follow-up of the practicalities.
Yeah, thank you, Bente. So what is all about? We stated that this is a reflection and brainstorming on a kind of brand new challenges and brand new problems, how to actually translate economic value to some end users and clients of these innovative solutions, how to measure the policy impact of these new tools. And for sure, what you will gain, the visibility among professionals and experts. And what we suggest is to present your insights during one of the biggest conferences we have in this domain in Brest, that will be from 16th till 19th of June online, and gain visibility through the Iliad website and all Iliad resources and all Iliad network, and become really very visible to this broad community of experts. We believe this worth it. Next slide, please. And a bit about the process. So we expect you will receive an email with these presentations with all links and additional materials you've heard within this webinar. In the early next week, we will have 2 webinars to support you in your online work and preparation for the final presentation to juries. We will give you an opportunity to have sessions with experts, with pilot leaders and domain experts. Final presentations are planned for next Friday. And for the following week, the winners will present their insights during Oceans 2025 in Brest. You will be provided with the templates of presentations and pitch decks we expect from you as an outcome. And we are ready to answer any questions and believe that we will have very interesting insights as a result.
Yes. Thank you, Sophia. So this slide deck will also, do you have the link to the Google site, or do you want to send that in an email to the participants?
We will send it in an email to the participants with all the links and with all links to YouTube videos, to the library of materials in one email right after this webinar.
And if you cannot wait, you can, of course, you see at the bottom here, you see the address to our website. And you will see the marketplace that Valentine was showing. So you can explore as you immediately after we shut down this webinar also. In addition to what you said, Sophia, this is also an opportunity for you to engage with and discuss with a very big community of experts, be it in policy making, in technical solutions, in ocean modeling, etc. So there's a vast community just within Iliad, and then we also have links to many other communities. So don't be shy to ask questions, please. We want to engage with you, and any idea that you come with, I can assure you we will be very, very appreciative of that, from all of you. And I think with that, we are 3 minutes over the hour. Maybe I give you the opportunity to ask questions, either in the chat if you're too shy to take the floor, but you just unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Nobody? Going one, going two, going three. Oh, I think it was crystal clear, and that you are brimming with enthusiasm and creative ideas on the basis of what you heard. We are looking forward to engage with you in the coming days, and until the next time. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Good
Ciao.
luck. Yes.
Bye.